Welcome to a special two-part live episode recorded in our brand new studios here at the RiskWell office. This one is a treat. I'm very excited to share it with you. It ended up being too much for one episode. It was almost an hour and a half of recording time. So we cut it in two, and I have the privilege of interviewing the three most senior people on the team here at RiskWell. My wife, Allison, who's my business partner and our executive administrator, and then Jennifer Wallace and Addison Sapp on our team, who are the two key leaders that help make everything happen here. So sit back and enjoy this very candid, very revealing conversation that you get to see a whole lot from people that make RiskWell happen. Happy episode 150 to our podcast. As we drop this episode, we're just a week away from our third anniversary of being on the air. It's been an incredible ride, and very excited to reach this milestone with you. So at the end of this episode, there's an awkward little cut because there's really no other way to do that when you're taking one conversation and chopping it into two pieces. So here we go. We'll go ahead and run the bumper and get into episode 150 of the Agency Freedom Podcast. Let's go. All right, welcome back to the show. It is another episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast. We help insurance professionals move from captivity to freedom, and this is the first time of doing an episode like this. Highly suggest you check this episode out on our YouTube channel if you haven't checked the other ones out, because you will see that there is something very interesting going on. We have three powerful women here in the studio, and they're all wearing their snazzy new RiskWell cardigan blazer things. It's like a blardigan or a clazer. I'm not sure what it is. It's like a cross between the two. But thank you to Personalized Touch here, McKinney, for getting us all embroidered. And I thought it'd be super fun. And, well, actually, Allison thought it'd be super fun, or Jennifer. I don't know who had the idea. It wasn't me. It was
Addie.
Was it Addie? The content queen over here.
Probably.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys hear from me most of the time, have guests on from all over the country. But in this episode, we peel the curtain all the way back, and our whole executive team is on the episode here with me. I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions, and they have been instructed to be ruthlessly honest, because that just makes for a more interesting episode. Don't think for one second that I'm trying to present myself as someone who's got it all figured out. All three of these women will tell you I definitely do not have it all figured out. So, okay, introducing themselves, starting with here to my right. Go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do, and any bio, any background stuff that you want to provide real quick, and then we'll just jump right in.
I'm Allison Jenkins. I am James's wife, and joined the agency back in August after a hiatus of about 6 years being a mom and raising our kids. So I am a partner and executive administrator, which basically means anything that's non-revenue driving is what I help support.
And if you haven't heard episode 9 of the podcast, she was literally the very first interview that we had. It was either 8 or Brecklin was 9. You were 8. Yeah, that's right. Episode number 8 after the first 7. So go back and check it out. It's a long time ago. It's kind of a very different vibe back then in the early days of the podcast. We really had no idea what we were doing. So, okay.
Do we now?
I have a much better idea of what we're doing. Yes.
Okay.
After 150 something episodes, I certainly hope we do. Oh, man. Who are you exactly?
I am Jennifer Wallace. I am our Director of Sales Development, and I will have been with RiskWell 2 years on May 1st.
Yeah,
1st.
And since we are doing a rapid release of this episode, we're recording it on a Tuesday morning and dropping it on a Friday, 3 days later. Typically, we have pretty good lead time for the episodes, but by the time everybody hears this, you'll be, a week away from celebrating your 2-year anniversary with the company.
Absolutely. 2 glorious years.
What's a typical day look like for you?
Well, I am the only employee that's remote, so I actually office out of my home in Austin. And that is mainly because I don't think the team could deal with James and I both in the office together.
Bring the mic a little bit closer.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Basically, my day starts with team meetings, meeting with our commercial team, going through pipelines, getting our days squared away. Addison and I work a lot closely together to ensure that our REI team and our commercial team know kind of what's going on. We do share several clients. I do a lot of sales training, call training with the team, talking to clients, basically just keeping the ball rolling while James is out there meeting with a lot of our VIPs and, just ensuring that the back end is getting processed.
Yep. And, building studios like this that we're sitting in right now and, recording the content that Addie tells me to, because she is the content queen here in our office.
She is, yes. I'm a little nervous being in office. I'm going to have to not come in yoga pants because that TikTok camera is always around the corner, just around the corner.
Yeah, you may have seen, if you're on TikTok, we finally have a RiskWell TikTok for your entertainment. It's definitely a more lighthearted kind of flavor. Addie was like, "Hey, I think we should do a TikTok account." And I was like, "Well, technically we already did like 3 years ago, but we've literally not ever used it at all." And she's like, "Well, can I lead out in that?" I was like, "Well, I'm not going to lead out in that. That is definitely not my game." I'm sorry. I'm no Daniel Song over here, Mr. million plus followers on TikTok. So, yeah, if you don't know Daniel Song, he's an agent in California, an amazing follow. He has like a family style TikTok. He doesn't really talk about insurance much at all, but yeah, I'm stealing some of your thunder here. Sorry, Addie. Who are you? What do you do?
I am Addison Sapp. I am the Chief Operating Officer of TikTok. No, just kidding. I am the Director of Client Experience, and I also am kind of in ops, but also leading out in REI. So a little bit of everywhere. I started with the agency 4.5 years ago. October will be 5 years. And yeah, I'm not really sure where to go from there. I do a little bit of everything. Seen RiskWell grow.
You're the glue.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are my right hand in the office, and between you and Allison, you're the bullet trap, so I don't get stuck in things that I shouldn't be stuck in, because we have, now that Megan signed her offer letter, we have, 8 people at this company. So
it's interesting because I'm like, what does a normal day look like for me? When Jen started talking about it, I'm like, I don't know what a normal day looks like for me. Every day's a little bit different.
You have the most fun of anyone in the office, because
For
your schedule is the most,
Yeah.
I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
TikTok Tuesdays.
Jen and I typically just have our hair on fire, keeping track of the deal flow and the pipelines. Meanwhile, Addie's like, "Hey guys,
let's TikTok.
Check out this TikTok I made. And oh, by the way, I talked to that vendor. And oh, by the way, I scheduled this thing for you. And I'm talking to a schedule prospect. And I'm leading Ashley and Verona." And it was like, how does Addie keep track of all this? It's wild. We'll get into that in a little bit. I wanted to just open up a quick set of questions here, just putting myself in the shoes of our Freedom Jumpers, our listening audience, going, if they got to have an Ask Me Anything, what would they want to hear about? And I'm thinking about all the questions that I get asked in comments and messages and whatnot. So congratulations, you're 3 guinea pigs here. So I get to ask you whatever I want, and you can answer however you please. So Allison, as the most disconnected of the team, just because you are a full-time mom and you're in the office maybe 15, 20 hours a week, you have a much better time, an easier time having that outsider's perspective, the fresh eyes review, whatever you want to call it, because you're not client facing at all. You never get bogged down with all the junk that literally everybody else on the team gets bogged down in. You get to stay a little bit more 20, 30,000 feet and whatnot. So from your perspective, what in the world is going on here at RiskWell? What are we about? What is it that makes us tick? Because we're doing things we shouldn't be able to do. with the team that we have. There's only 7 or 8 people here. We've only been around for 5 years. We're doing a bunch of stuff that's not normal for the profile of agency that we are. How do you think that happens?
I think it's primarily driven through you. I mean, when we were a captive agency, there were so many ideas that you had that could not come to fruition because of this or that. And becoming our own independent brokerage has allowed for all those creative ideas to come full circle. And you can try out things, and if they work, great. And if they don't, great. You've also built a tremendous team, starting with Brecklin and following with Addie and all the people that are here now. There is a culture that has been created that is supportive primarily. There are some situations that are like, what are you thinking? But most of the time...
Not the drone.
There are some ideas where let's hard stop. But it's really we have a young staff. There's no question about that. And so I think that's one reason that we are continuing to evolve is because you have ideas and you also have a staff that's not scared of it. It's not people that have been in the industry for 15, 20 years. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a fresh perspective. It's a fresh, let's try it. Let's do a TikTok. Let's see how this YouTube channel thing goes. Or they're not afraid to try new things because they haven't been just stuck in a redundant, repetitive environment. And that's not what we create. So when we are in the interview process and hiring people, we say, we're not going to just settle for whatever is happening. It's going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to be challenged, what we're doing right now. And some things will work and some things won't. But you tend to say yes more than you say no and try things more than you don't. So it's kind of like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. And we've experienced some of the worst that can happen and pivot hard and fast.
Yes.
Yeah. Jen, you've been here, as we just said, almost 2 years. You formerly were at an agency in San Antonio. The principal or co-principal, there's 3 of them, happens to be a friend of mine.
Yeah.
That made for a very awkward conversation, which I'll I'll just tell it right now. Eric Roberts is a friend of mine. He's at my insurance group in San Antonio. Great shop.
Awesome.
Personalized, focused.
Yep.
Who's the third principal? James Cardenas is the second one.
So the last one is John Hansen.
John Hansen.
Yep.
I don't know John Hansen. I met him once when I was down there.
3 great guys, 3 very different personalities.
Yeah. No, it really is a 3-headed monster at the top of the ship up there.
It is.
When you made the decision to come over to our team, 2 years ago, it was literally 1 week before I was already scheduled to be in Phoenix at a mastermind, staying in an Airbnb with 7 guys, one of whom was Eric Roberts.
Right.
It was the most amazing opportunity for a horribly awkward situation. But kudos to Eric. He handled it like an absolute champ.
Yeah.
And I texted him before, was like, hey, there's something that you need to know about. And I was so embarrassed. I was so nervous that he was going to think that I had poached you.
Right.
And, at the end of the day, you're free to do whatever you please.
Yeah.
And it was just the biggest compliment and I think Eric would probably say it may have not been the smartest move to teach you commercial insurance by sending you to my YouTube channel.
Right.
Because that's how we got connected.
That is,
Eric said, hey, I don't know commercial well enough to teach you, but my buddy James does, so go watch all of his content. And you did, and a year and a half later, you left that office to come lead out our commercial department because I just didn't have any bandwidth left. I was running on fumes.
Yeah.
And our growth was tapped out because we didn't have someone to help me do commercial.
Right.
And here you are.
Yeah. Well, Eric is like a brother to me. He is a great guy. He's still a great friend. We bug each other and, send inappropriate memes weekly. But Eric had actually asked me to come help him roll out a commercial team or commercial insurance department. I had no insurance experience. So I think, you know, going to your YouTube channel, you trained me, whether you knew it or not.
Yeah.
And then I saw on Facebook that you were looking for somebody to run your commercial department. And I thought, you know, I'm going to throw my name in the hat. It was for an in-person position, so I didn't know if I had a shot, knowing that I was going to be in Austin. That's where my kids are. But I talked to Eric about it afterwards, and he was absolutely happy for me. It all ended up great. They ended up getting somebody who has the commercial experience that they actually needed.
Yeah.
You know, and I've grown so much here. And, you know, we joke because when I saw that, I was like, you're hiring me. Here I am, and I am coming to work for you. You have already trained me for the past year or
It was
two.
a complete no-brainer. You know, I like to give Eric a hard time because, you know, they ended up acquiring Luis Leal's agency.
Yes, and that's what needed to happen.
And
yeah.
Luis is a friend of mine as well. That wonderful chingon, as he calls himself. And he and I had casually talked about an acquisition from RiskWell a couple of times. Nothing ever really came of it because it would have been a different fit.
Right.
And then I saw that he had chosen to, you know, be acquired by my insurance group and join their team and lead out. And it was like, Eric, you sly dog. I wanted him for my team.
He was thinking,
and Eric was like,
checkmate.
hey, James, you can have Jennifer. I'm going to take Luis, and everybody's going to win. So I hesitate to talk about other things. And, the drinks are being delivered. Thank you so much. This is when you know that your team all rolls together. Thank you.
Thanks,
Y'all
guys.
are awesome.
They're giving us all the caffeine because they have to deal
when
with
you
us.
buy people Sonic, you ask them nicely. They might, could you bring my phone in here, please? It's on my desk. That just tells you how real these episodes are because we're literally sitting here having Sonic delivered right to our laps.
While we drink our coffee.
Well, some of us don't drink coffee anymore. But I hesitate to, you know, bring another agency into the conversation, but it's central to your story.
Yep, absolutely.
And you know, that is what brought you here.
Yes.
And you have had a wild 2 years. I won't pretend like it's, thank you very much. I won't pretend like it's anything close to all positive. And how in the world am I?
My God.
This is the first time, guys. I mean, I will definitely have to mute myself when I eat these, but I'm eating tater tots on a podcast.
Apologize to your editors right now.
Apologize to the editors right now.
ASMR. That's going on the TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Okay.
Sometimes hindsight is clearer.
I'm not going to eat any more tater tots. That was a really gross sound. So, in the last 2 years, and my difficulties in certain leadership decisions, oversights, missteps, you know, misjudgment, miscalculation, just being boneheaded and stubborn and sometimes not in a good way, that has created challenges that we have learned to overcome, and we're definitely stronger for it. What has been, you know, your experience in the last 2 years? Like, if you want to boil it down to just a couple of lessons learned, the most interesting part of these stories on a podcast like this is that people listening to it get to hear firsthand from other agents that have been through the fire. Sometimes fires of their own creation,
yes,
unfortunately. But nevertheless, lessons learned, and overall, RiskWell is in a very healthy place now, much better than it was 5 or 6 months ago. But you have been an incredibly important piece of that puzzle. I'd love to hear from your perspective in the last couple of years.
You know, being fluid, I think, is probably one of the most important aspects of being a part of RiskWell. Like Allison said, we have a team that is able to juke, is willing to try new things, and they are okay when that new thing might not work and we have to revert back to where we were, because that's just the better process for us. It's a better process for our clients. I've learned that hiring for the culture, which is something that you've always aimed to do, really does make the difference. Getting the right people in the right places. I was talking to a friend of mine who, is hiring. She was HR in her company, and, upper management not listening to their team. It really does. I shared with her the story, or what you always say: what you want to do, what the company needs you to do, and what you're good at all need to intersect. And you really do take that when you talk with us about moving team members into different positions. And we listen to their feedback. So I think that that's something that I've learned. It doesn't matter how good you are or how much you know about insurance. If your personality doesn't fit our culture, it's just not going to work at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Clients having issues with claims and how we really do jump in there and try to mitigate that stressor for them. Not a lot of companies do that. And I think the fact that you vet these carriers, that we do have access to, probably 4 or 5 times the number of carriers we're actually willing to write with. Just being selective that way is something that I hadn't seen in the past. It was always whatever carrier's willing to take this business, whatever carrier's willing to write the policy. And we don't think that way. So just shifting my mindset to really customizing it, to really being more of a boutique, so to speak, insurance provider. We're not going to sell just anything. We're going to sell quality products. And making sure that our clients understand what they're purchasing and why they're purchasing it. Understanding the difference between owning a coffee shop and actually relabeling the beans and selling it as their own, and why that makes them a distributor or manufacturer. Learning all of that and making sure that the clients understand it is just something I love, because I love to teach. I love to train, to help team members grow, and to see them move up in the ranks and to see them get more confident, I think is something that really helps me feel like I'm adding value to the company.
Love it. No, I couldn't agree more. And the sass, the energy, the direct communication, a little bit of sarcasm, with the clients.
Absolutely.
And the attitude that you bring to the interactions. Like when I'm standing on a stage and I'm talking to a room full of other insurance people, one of the things that I'm constantly trying to relay is be yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
Do your thing. Run your agency. Because what I do may not work for you. What you do may not work for me. And I love the way you do things, Jen, because you are unashamedly you, and it works with who we are as a company. And I mean, my leadership style is a lot more hands-off than most people. I prefer to stay to big picture things. I'm not going to micromanage. I'm not going to say, well, this is how you're supposed to say it. This is the script. Read the script. It was like, no, that's not really how we do things here.
Right.
We communicate big picture direction and let the individual team members own their space.
Right. And we tell them, when we're listening to calls and doing call reviews, I tell them, let your personality come through. And that's really where you're going to make those connections. That's when, one of our top 5 clients will text me at 7 a.m. with a meme because he has a new deal coming through that's a pretty large deal for our office. And, he sends me a Simpsons meme. So, I mean, they know who we are. They know that really we're a big family. And Addie's TikTok idea has been amazing, because I think sometimes the girls do try to be more professional, more buttoned up, and they don't show their personality as much. And I have loved seeing their personalities shine, and our clients and our business partners being able to really see who they're on the phone with, what that person not only looks like, but what their personality is. So I've really, really enjoyed that, Addie. That's been an absolute great ad. I'm terrified every time I turn the corner when I'm in the office because I don't know if there's going to be a camera in my face. So I'm, smile.
We'll ease into it today.
Oh, Lordy.
And on the subject of personality, I have to say that Jen and James are of the same cloth. And she was not exaggerating when she said if the two of them were in the same location for an extended period of time, it would be a different.
Glorious.
When
we would have to come with a disclaimer.
The most interesting is
A warning label.
when James is having a good day or a bad day and Jen is having the opposite, because typically like if they're just like going
Vibing.
When they're vibing, it's like, okay, great. But they both it's an interesting balance seeing when the two that are so similar are having
On the same wavelength.
a different wavelength or have a different
Oh, yeah.
idea.
When we clash.
Well,
and it
even,
doesn't happen. I think
Right.
it's only happened once since I joined, and it was like,
And here's the thing. We clash, and it was during the move.
oh, yeah.
Because you guys were trying to get this office together, and I was trying to manage everybody else and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think at one point I threw my hands in the air and had a little bit of a hissy fit. I may have been helicoptering on the floor in my living room. I'm not going to admit or deny anything. But James and I, the way we communicate is I went off, on him, and he was like, got it, breathe. And the opposite's true too. He can come at me and be like, you need to take it. And I think we have such similar personalities that it's not offensive, that we know how to talk to each other. Yep. The funny part is when, he calls me at 8:00 at night and is like, so Allison says that, you work too much and, we shouldn't talk after hours. And I'm like, but this is our downtime. Like, and he's like, I thought so too. And so then we get into a 40-minute conversation. Poor Allison.
Half of it was work.
It was.
The other half was just
Exactly. Laughing. And it's just easier when the office is closed to have those conversations.
Oh my gosh.
Addie and I tried to do FaceTimes every day just because we need to check in with each other.
See
and
how things are going.
Yeah, it's good to have a team that we can bounce things off of. I know Allison joining the team has been absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, there were things that Addie and I knew needed to be buttoned up, and there was just no capacity. And Allison came in, and she took all of that non-revenue generating things off our plate. And it's like, wow, look at us. We have new hire handbooks, and we actually have processes.
Can breathe again.
We're trying.
Yeah, it's been amazing, Allison. It really has. Plus a third, now we have a triangle that we can kind of corral James in when he's trying to go wayward on us.
I have 3 handlers now instead of just 1 or 2.
2 in person now. And
Addie has the most experience being my handler and just saying...
Work-wise.
No.
Yeah.
No, don't.
Same.
I mean, within the confines of just
of the office.
Good luck, Allison. It's much easier to handle me at home because it's literally just... empty the dishwasher and take the trash cans to the street.
Just
provide a very
and
give him a glass of whiskey.
Husband, pick up this heavy object and move it where I tell you to. And I mean, she's the queen of the house, and it frustrates her to no end because I spend so much energy in the work context of decision making and tactical and strategy and all the things that go into being an executive of a growing agency. And sometimes it frustrates her to no end. She'll ask me a question about my opinion, and I'm just like, I don't care what color the towels are. What do you want to do for this thing? Do we need this storage container or that storage container for that thing over there? I'm just like, I don't care. I want to care, but I just don't.
But I bet you being in the office now, Allison, really opens your eyes to these things that he was taking home that you might not have been as familiar with since you weren't in the office and you didn't know the personalities.
It has been very good to just understand what's going on. I like being able to hear names throughout the day, and then if he mentions it in the evening, I can understand it. Whereas prior to joining, it was just like name after name after name, and I have no idea who's who. Everything goes so quickly that he would have like all the entire backstory in his brain, and he would tell me 5 words about something and expect me to know what it was. Or
We talked about this a month ago. Don't you
does.
remember?
He
And I
does
have
that
no-
in business as well, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need more words.
Yeah. So it's been very beneficial, and it's also just helped me to have that perspective. And I think it's also helped him to have perspective of like what is involved in just like things that aren't the most fun, like the documents and things that I
Yeah.
get
the things
thrilled
that you're really good
by.
at.
Right.
But the things that we want to be, everything to be scalable, like non-revenue driving is what I do, and scalable is kind of like the word that I want to be the theme of my position.
Yep.
And as long as we can make it scalable for the future, then I've done my job.
Well, so you've been a little quiet here, sitting over there on your side of the room, just taking this all in, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's just really interesting to hear everybody's perspectives on when they started and the journeys along the ride. I mean, it's interesting because, Allison, you've been able to watch James grow from this outside perspective. And Jen, you've been able to do it through YouTube. And then I'm over here watching it happen in live action. And it has been a pleasure. It's just been kind of crazy to watch you evolve.
So when you and I met, you're basically a child. You were just getting started. You're at the very edge of adulthood. You're still really no idea how things pan out. You have a general idea. You want to be like your mom, who's an amazing person.
Yeah, she's
And
wonderful.
yeah, great example. You see a lot that you admire in the way that she chose to live her life. And we interview you for a position. It's not the right fit for you, and you stay where you were. And then 6 months later, almost exactly 6 months later, we interview you again, because when we left the first time, I was like, I really like this girl, but this is not the right fit for her. And when I said, I'll keep your information and let you know the next time something comes up, you may have blown it off, written it off as, oh, that's not going to be a thing. But I was dead serious. It's like, the next time we have a position open, she is the first call I'm making. And there was a position, and we did, and you came over, and 4.5 years. You might have had fun with, seeing the evolution of me and the way that I do things and the lessons that I've learned. But I mean, I've had a front row seat to watching you become an adult and flourish in your career and get married and have a kid earlier than you thought you would, and then have a second kid much earlier than you thought you would.
Way earlier than I thought I would.
And I just get to see Addie become this amazing person and wife and mom, and I mean, right-hand person in our office. And I've jokingly said, except I'm not really joking, is like, if Addie's not here, my desire to do this is significantly less, because I don't want to do this without Addie. I don't want to do this without Jen. I can't do this without Allison. So sorry, you're totally stuck with
I'm
me.
committed.
But I mean, if the people in this room aren't here, I'm probably selling the agency and doing something else, because it's not nearly as much fun without the people that are here. So where do we go with that from asking you a question you have any hope of answering? I'll just pose the same thing that I asked Jen. What are some big things that you've seen, big lessons learned of being on the team, of just things that you've picked up of how to do the practice of insurance, how to take care of people, how to leave a positive impact on our policyholders and channel partners and friends and stuff?
It's a balance. It's a balance between maintaining work life and personal life and balancing out the relationships in the office. Yeah, we like to have fun, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't get difficult with just trying to navigate everybody's personalities. We are so all drastically different at RiskWell, but we have so much fun, and the TikToks just make it even more fun. But, reeling that in and realizing, why we're here and making sure that we're making a difference in everybody's lives and making sure that they get the right policies. I think, that just comes with the job and comes with time. And what Jen said about the team just being themselves on the phone is so important. And that's a big part of our culture, is just staying true to who you are while doing your work really well, risking well.
Risking well. There you go.
I think the fact that you started at an entry-level position and now you're on the executive team, that speaks volumes. And I think that, you've done what you're asking the REI team girls to do. You've done what you're asking our happiness coordinator to do. And I think that alone gains you so much respect from them. It's not a do as I say. It's I've done it and I know where you're at. I know when you say you're in the trenches. How does it feel knowing that you moved up so quickly?
Incredible. I was thinking back to my hiring experience. Pretty much anytime we hire somebody new, I think about how that went for me and what it looked like and what encouraged me to just keep pushing through and trying new things. And I remember in my interview, it was a pizza party because James and Brecklin stayed late so y'all could meet me. And it was so wonderful. And I was in a position at my last company that it wasn't the right fit for me. And I just was putting in way too many hours for a company that wasn't putting that into me. And I told James, I'm like, I want a career. That's what I want. That's what I need. And he was like, I have a front desk position, but we might have something down the road. And I said, okay, all right, just let me know. And then a couple months later, he calls me and he's like, I have something. And I think this is going to be really big. And I think you're the right person for it. Can we do another interview? And we did. And it was amazing. And I told James, I'm like, this is going to be my career. Like insurance, this is what I'm going to do. And the insurance side of it was incredibly intimidating to me because I had only seen the harsh side of insurance, which is claims. And navigating claims and going through that has just been, at RiskWell, it's completely different than what it was in property management. And then I had a apartment fire happen in 2020 and lost everything. And I saw the really good side of insurance and getting to work with RiskWell and just having James there for me through all of that. And then my life rapid going into a fast track of married, the babies, house, all the things. And a lot of growing up happened. I think growing up so quickly is really what pushed me along in the company. Because as I was growing personally, I was growing professionally at double the speed. It just happened really fast.
And James hired you and married you.
Yeah, James did. James did marry me in 2020.
I am, in fact, a ordained minister.
Yes. Terrifying.
In the Southern Baptist Convention of Texas.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so incredible, though. It was, my house fire happened, and we got news from Brennan's company that, their guidelines are if you guys are living out of wedlock, which we were at the time, that you guys need to get married. So we said, okay, well, we're already engaged. And James said, well, I can marry you guys tomorrow. And I was like, let's do it. And
I said it like 75% joking, but 25% serious, which is how most of our ideas start out.
Absolutely.
So an hour later, James pulls me into his office and he starts asking me, what do I want in life? What do I want to do? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? All these like really intense, deep questions. Very James questions. And it was so random. And I was like, I don't know. I just had a house fire. I don't have the answers for you. And then he's like, all right, well, that's all I have for you. And so I walk out. They start playing music, like what's that song called? Maybe the sun is shining. Anyway, it's
Yes.
some happy-go-lucky song. And there's a wedding dress hanging up on our whiteboard. And they got me a veil and there was flowers and everything. And they said, all right, tomorrow meet at this place in this park and we're going to throw you a wedding. And I had a RiskWell wedding in McKinney. And it was
And the azalea,
so
or
great.
was it the azalea gardens, the crepe myrtle gardens?
Crepe Myrtle.
The crepe myrtle gardens right off of Stacy.
Yep. And
Yeah.
it was in like a circle of beautiful red rose, or it was like pink and red roses. And it was incredible. Like, I'm like, well, I was in the process of planning my wedding, but I'm like, I keep looking back to that wedding and I just couldn't have gotten any better than that. It was incredible.
That's one of my favorite James stories.
I freaking
And there
love that
there
day.
are many of them, but I think that shows that, you know, I've before heard, yes, my work family is like my real family, or I have a
Yeah.
work family and then I have my home family. Ours are all one. I feel like when I say my family, I'm talking about my kids. I'm talking about my sisters. I'm also talking about y'all. Like, there's no distinction. You know, work is work, but when we have issues, even after hours, I know that I could pick up the phone and call anybody in this room
Mhm.
and you guys would pick up. So, you know, when we say, yes, we're, you know, RiskWell's like family, or RiskWell, we're very family oriented, we become part of our families. And that's just,
Yeah.
that's a huge difference to me from anywhere I've ever worked.
Well, and my philosophy on all of that, it just comes back to a very basic principle. Hire people that you would hang out with.
Yeah.
Hire people whose personality, whose disposition. We don't all like the same things. We all have very different interests. I don't know how to knit or, you know, cross stitch or all the things that Addie knows how to do.
Right.
Crochet. One of those things, you know, yarn and
Yeah.
little needles. You know, I obviously don't know anything
It's too
about
much
that.
sitting still for you, first of all.
I cannot sit still for that
Neither
long.
can I.
Not possible. But the whole concept of hire people that you would hang out with, people that match your energy, that you enjoy, because I mean, even if there weren't jobs and payroll and all the things that we do within the context of this company, like I would totally just hang out with you guys. Hey,
Yeah.
want to head to the park and toss the frisbee, or hey, want to go grab a bite and, you know, catch a concert? Like, I would hang out with you guys. And I think that speaks volumes to the energy at RiskWell. And it seems like, you know, Megan, the new hire, was like catching on that energy of
Yeah.
this is a very positive place. Like, I mean, we do a lot of hard work, and we'll circle back to the REI thing in a little bit because I know people want to hear the story. And this is probably a 2-part episode. I should say that at the beginning, honestly, because I didn't know it was going to be a 2-part episode. But since we rescheduled the 11 o'clock, we have a little bit more bandwidth, and I have some more questions to ask. So this will probably end up being a 2-part episode. So we're going to get into the niche stuff. We're going to get into disqualification. We're going to get into dealing with opportunities and challenges in the RiskWell way. And that's it for the first half of this special 2-part live conversation. Tune in next Friday morning for the second part, and that's it for now. Make it a great day, boys and girls. We'll catch you again real soon. Y'all take care.